We're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Normally today we'd have Shane, but Shane wanted to take a rest day, and I totally understand that. Wishing Shane well. And everybody's got to be smart, especially with the pressures that we're facing right now. Take your mental health days, people. But we got
Yeah.
the opinionated ogre, which always makes me so and always, always makes me so happy. And always a wonderful Arturo who knows all and is all. And he just
Yeah.
I rely on Arturo to correct me and give me. Oh, this last week I was raging about that James Carville bullshit, and you brought up so many things that were so helpful. I'll let you guys start. What are you guys raging about? Oh no, shit! Oh, he's back.
I was about to say,
Well,
oh, wait, we lost him.
Yep, Tech Bros.
it's crazy. I switched to my phone and I don't know, things got crazy. Anyway, yeah, no, the James Carville thing, man. The James Carville thing is something, you know. It immediately brought me back to some of the comments he made about Obama,
Yeah,
go smoke a crack pipe type stuff.
yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff like,
Ogre.
Carville's been Carville's been a problematic guy for a long time, and I'm like the way Democrats rely on him just blows me away sometimes. It really does.
Yep.
He got Clinton elected in what, 92? Hasn't won an election since. That's the
Perot
only
got
election.
Clinton. Ross
Yeah.
Perot got Clinton elected. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah.
Two old, creepy, racist white guys got Clinton
Mhm.
elected. It's like, okay, time to move on.
Yeah.
Right.
And just the comments, because so many people, though, too, I find, and they're good people, and they're just like, well, he's irrelevant. I'm like, that guy drives away 10 voters for every one guy he brings in. And that's why we're fucked over. And he sabotages us. And it's just like, most evil people know how to disguise themselves. So you're looking elsewhere. And it's like these
Right.
jackoffs, marching through the street with tiki torches. Those are the pawns. They're just intended to sacrifice them. The real evil guys are behind this. Oh, there goes the cat. The
There's
evil
my
guys
cat.
are behind the
Yeah.
screens. I'm like, that's
I
a
was
big
like, what
cat.
is that?
This
It's
is
a
like Star
whiteout.
Wars. This cat, it's like the first scene of Star Wars. The cat just keeps going and going and going.
Whoops.
At first, it looked like he took a huge bong hit or something. I was like, what is that?
He's going to reveal the ogre. But thoughts
Yeah.
on that, ogre?
Oh, hello. Can you still hear me?
Yep, we hear
Yeah.
you.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Yep. No, my screen froze for a second. No, James Carville, like, I don't pay a huge amount of attention to him because he is fucking annoying and he's
Yeah.
not helpful.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
So therefore, it's just I just want him to go away. Isn't he married to a Republican?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
A
You
diehard
know,
Republican.
and I'm
Yeah.
sorry, at this point, if you're still married to a Republican, that's a choice.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. And it kills me because, he lives in New Orleans, a really black city. And the way he talks about black people just kills me because he's surrounded. I mean, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
Carville's in that upper class part of New Orleans, that looks down on the rest of New Orleans. And I don't know. That's how he strikes me. I spent a lot of time in New Orleans after Katrina, and worked there for a couple of years. And like you see that divide. And I just look at Carville and I feel like he's the guy in the old, plantation looking house. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
He's an
Yeah,
18
yeah.
he's an 1860s Democrat is what he fucking is.
Right. Yeah. There you go. That's a good one.
That's
That's a
kind
good
of
one.
and Ogre talks about that a lot. These guys, these cosplay moderates and it's just the guys pretending to be on our side and the second they get power they just fuck us. You
Yeah,
know?
no,
Yeah.
there's an awful lot of those who just make a lot of lip service to it's like, oh, I'm quite on the left, I'm this, I'm that, and it's like, but in the meantime, all they ever want to do is tell everyone like they talk about woke this, woke that, and I'm like, yeah, you're not really on the left. You just want white people back in charge. You should probably
Right.
go fuck off.
Yeah. They're the ones that are like, we're only cosplaying that we're fascists so that we can get those fascists to vote for us. And it's like, you can't cosplay. You are a fascist if you're doing that. It's just like, they're not just a
Right.
little bit fascist to get those guys. It's mind boggling, though, the extent to which this narrative controls our whole political system. Like, you get so much pressure from people. They're like, you need to stop asking for radical things like universal health care. Like, that's just never going to happen. And that's the mindset we have to change because I've met like human beings that were rational human beings that are so indoctrinated with this belief set that we have to bring in the fascists somehow that you can't even have a conversation. Then I end up fighting with them. So that division is there. I'm still wrestling with it and how we go forward.
Well, the
I don't
weird
really
thing
get
about that is they always have room for the fascists, but they don't have room for,
progressive.
gay people. They don't have room for feminists. They don't have room for black people. They don't have room for trans people.
Yeah.
But man, they always have room for the fucking fascists.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're a
And
white fascist, man, we've always got our door open for you. But, if you're a single black mother, it's like, why don't you go sit in the back of the bus and we'll get to you? And it's like,
right.
yeah, that's not how that fucking works, man. Fuck the
Yeah,
fascists.
I don't understand the logic of meeting MAGA in the middle. This whole thing drives me nuts because you hear a lot of people, even liberals, they're like, "Oh, big tent, we should welcome them in." And I'm like, dude, how many people do you think you're going to run off as soon as you welcome a Klansman into the big tent, right? How many
Yeah.
people, as soon as a guy wearing a Nazi uniform walks in, how many people are going to run off, right? So what's the difference? I'm supposed to meet like Nick Fuentes or Tucker Carlson or people like that in the middle? No, no. Sure, okay, so Tucker Carlson said some things the other day about the Palestine thing, and like people are like, I use Palestine as my litmus test, and I'm like, okay, look, I'm pro-Palestinian like all the way, right? But I'm not. I don't use Palestine as a litmus test because there are a lot of Nazis who are speaking up for Palestinians right now only because they hate Jewish people, not because they care about Palestinians, because they hate Palestinians just as much. Nick Fuentes doesn't like black people, doesn't like Latinos despite being one, doesn't like, Palestinians, Arabs, Muslims, Jews. Like, he doesn't like anybody. He's just white supremacist all the way around. So he says a couple of things every once in a while that may be right about the whole conflict, right? That doesn't make him a good person.
Yeah, he's
That's
not
not a
our
litmus.
friend because, he
Right,
suddenly has a single
right.
opinion.
I assure you he hates all three of us. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Yeah.
So like
absolutely.
he's not the guy. He's not the guy. Like, I raised a trans kid. I've told you this. I raised a gay kid and, a straight kid. I got grandkids, like all this stuff. And like, you're not gonna sit here and tell me that a guy who hates my entire family is the guy I should be listening to because he's right about one thing every once in a while. No, dude, I'm gonna throw that broken clock in the trash. It
Yeah.
may be
Yeah,
right twice a day, but it's still broken. You know what I mean? So
I've spent most of this week throwing down with trolls who showed up on my stack, yelling at me because I had the nerve on Monday to say, "Damn, that was fucked up. A bunch of Jewish people got shot in Australia. That shouldn't happen."
yeah,
And that was kind of it, right? That was kind of all I said. It was like, this is why I speak out against anti-Semitism. I didn't say anything else past that, right? Because we didn't know why they had been shot. Like, we have a pretty good guess, but we didn't know. So I was like, I'm not going to put an opinion out on that because I don't fucking know. They haven't said
right,
anything yet. And
right,
I immediately, and when I went on to Blue Sky and I saw the same thing, immediately people were like, well, maybe they should stop doing, genocide in Gaza. And it was like, what the fuck does that have to do with it? This
right.
was
Like
in
the
Australia, man.
right, right, right,
This is
and
Australia and not Israel. And
right,
wasn't a protest. This was just people celebrating Hanukkah. Why are you talking about Israel? Why are you talking about Gaza? And when I asked those questions, these people who were like very confident about, this was Israel's fault. It's like, why was it
Yeah.
Israel's fault? And they got really, really fucking angry with me because I asked that. Because the answer is, you're blaming every Jew everywhere in the world for that bullshit that Israel's doing.
right,
And when you make them want to, when you point that out to them, or you put them in the corner where it's just like, you have to fucking admit that's what you're doing, because otherwise, why the fuck would you even talk about Gaza? If I'm talking about a shooting in Israel, a shooting in Australia, and the first thing you do is go, oh my God, Gaza. It's like, okay, if you can't explain why you're connecting them without getting mad at me, then you know what you're fucking doing is wrong.
Yeah.
right.
I mean,
I agree with
I've
that.
done
All week I've been dealing with this.
I've gotten so much in the habit of when I get those hostile comments, I just jump on the profile before I respond to them. On Substack, it's easy. You can see if they subscribe to anybody. Like most of the time, they don't have subscribers at all. Sometimes they're subscribing to really weird accounts. So I won't even respond to them. I'm checking out this whole network that these accounts are involved with. And I think human beings are getting to that point where it's like, this has all happened instinctively. This isn't thought anymore that I do this. You get these weird, because you notice you're like, this is a bot swarm, I call it. I'm getting
Yeah.
swarmed. I've written a comment. I'm getting swarmed by bots because they're trying to change the zeitgeist by just this nonsense. So you kind of just do your backward research and see where this is all coming from. But yeah, we have to walk through those arguments because people who passively consume the media, like the three of us actively consume the media, where we're trying to create media, trying to fight these stories. But people who are passive, they're just like, oh yeah, well, they hear it and they're just like, on some level, if you're only like listening to it with 10% of your conscious mind,
Right.
you're not going to push back. And that's where the real problem is, that programming of people. We've talked about it, the rote programming of these hate groups that is constantly ongoing, that there's no counter to that yet. Yeah, it's still
No,
happening.
yeah, there are a lot of things, and I talk about this all the time, particularly like we're talking about Venezuela right now, right? Um, there's a lot that the US media is not telling you, right? They talk to, some Venezuelans here in the US that fled for whatever their reasons were. And, yeah, sure, they're supportive of, toppling Maduro or whatever. What the media is not telling you is that most of the people in Venezuela, like the United States has basically unified that country. They're more united now than they have been in a long time. Sure, they probably do hate Maduro, right? The majority, or at least half.
Doesn't mean they want to
Um,
be invaded and by the United
right.
Yeah.
States.
They're
Yes. Yeah.
opposed to an invasion, right? So, like, okay, you look at our country, right? And we're so proud of our independence. We're really nationalist about it, and I understand all that. We might hate our government, whatever, but if a foreign invader came, we're all going to fight, right? Doesn't matter who the president is, we're going to fight. In Venezuela, they just celebrated their independence recently from Spain, 200 years ago. They're proud of their independence. They're proud of their country. They're nationalist about it, just like we are. They're going to fight a foreign invasion, just like we would.
Yeah, no one
And
wants
whether
regime change pushed on them from outside.
Right, exactly, and that those are the angles the media doesn't tell you, and that's why, we talk to Venezuelans. I try to hook you guys up with, like, Elizabeth Raven, who's on
Yeah.
Substack. She's in an educator in Venezuela. Like, there's so many different views, and, like, if you're not talking to the people in those countries, you're missing a huge part, probably the biggest part of that story, and you just don't see it. Same thing when we're talking about the mass shooting in Australia. They immediately start equating it with everything going on here and everything going on in Israel. And it's like, we need to really figure out, like, what happened there, in that particular instance. And just like the mass shootings here, we had the guy at Brown University. Supposedly he went and killed that nuclear professor too. Like, I'm really suspicious of that whole narrative, but I mean,
Yeah.
we have these issues and we have to get to the bottom of them, right? Like, they tell you don't read a mass shooter's manifesto. I'm like, no, read it. Because if you don't, you don't understand what's going on. And if you don't understand what's going on, you're not going to see your own friends and family going down that road.
Yeah, it's not
And
taken
like,
at face value, but understand
right.
what rabbit hole did they go down,
Exactly.
so you know the
Right. Like,
signs to look for.
right. We need to know all these details. It's not, I published a lot of mass shooters manifestos, right? I published one at Latino Rebels. I caught a lot of flack for that. And it's like, you guys read the article, understand what point I'm making here. You
Yeah.
need to learn why these kids are doing this stuff. And
Hmm.
for these kids' parents, if you're not reading these manifestos, how are you going to see your kid falling down through that rabbit hole? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So I think it's really important for parents to read these manifestos.
Yeah.
Well, that was one of the things. That's why I haven't done it recently because I just don't have the patience for it. But like way back in the day, like 15 years ago, I spent a huge amount of time on neo-Nazi forums and
Yeah.
far-right forums because I needed to know who these people are. And like 4 or 5 years ago, I spent a huge amount of time, well, actually it might have been longer. I spent a huge amount of time in the manosphere, right? Because I needed to understand who those people were, because
Right.
with the right wing, with the right, their fringe never stays their fringe. And this is something I've been trying to tell people for a really long time. Whatever their fringe, like the left doesn't have this problem, right? The left has its kooky fringe, but its kooky fringe tends to stay its kooky fringe. With the
Right.
right, the kooky fringe never stays its kooky fringe. The kooky fringe becomes its mainstream. That's why 15 years ago, I literally wrote a series of articles about white Christian nationalism. It's like, that's going to be its mainstream in a
Yeah.
decade or so. And several years ago, I started writing a series of articles. It's like the new fringe is hardcore misogyny and pedophiles.
Yep.
And
Yep.
lo and behold, that's what's slowly becoming all right, not that slow, but it's becoming the
Right.
mainstream of the Republican Party. Hardcore misogyny and fucking pedophiles, because, the Nazis are already here. So where farther right do you go from there?
Yeah.
It's hello, cat again.
Uh,
The invasion
I think
again.
Yeah, Chip
I
Chip
think
really likes being on camera.
I love it.
But yeah,
I think
it's just, it's the pedophiles. And people, like, when I was writing over at the Banter, my editor was just like, yeah, I don't know about this. And I'm like, I'm fucking telling you,
Yeah.
the pedophilia is going to be a problem. They're going to embrace pedophilia on a big fucking scale.
Yep.
And here we are. I mean,
Yeah.
never, and it wasn't just Trump. It's really not just Trump and the Epstein files. If Trump and the Epstein files did not happen, they would still be fucking doing this, because
Yeah.
they were always going to do this.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the nihilistic misanthropic movement that's going on right now, in online spaces, they use a lot of Klan type and Nazi type of imagery, but they're not necessarily Nazis. They
Not
do it
yet.
just right, right. But in those movements, there is a lot of pedophilia, sexual exploitation. Like, they'll convince these young kids to do some stuff on camera, and then they'll use those photos to blackmail them and get them to
Yeah.
do violent stuff. And
Yep.
the 764 movement, which was started here in Texas, went worldwide. Like, that's a big problem right now. A lot of those people have been busted in the last few years, and every one of them has some sort of ties to this, child exploitation stuff that they're doing online. And it's just crazy to me to see how prominent it is, because
Yeah.
they call them small groups, but they have such a huge negative impact. And like, there's been a lot of mass two school shootings in the US tied to these groups. Like, there's been several mass shootings. Like, you got people
And they're
trying
not
to,
showing up online going, boy, I sure do love Black Lives Matter and the feminist movement. That
Yeah.
is just
right,
not how that works.
Yep. And
right,
then that narrative manipulation, like we were talking about before, because all those things, whenever you get pushback, it's always to push this normalize some white supremacy narrative. They're
yep,
always the right can sit there and blame the left for shootings, even though it's statistically negligible the time that happens. Like, violence is a feature of the right, and it's an aberration on the left. And yet we're not allowed to have those discussions, because I've been defiantly just countering this by saying every single mass shooting is white supremacy, because the only time you reduce the value of human life is if you're indulged in that toxic ideology. So that's by definition always white supremacy. And I get such pushback from people, like, and again, even good people. And one of the problems, or it's a feature of the left, is the left has peer review. They believe in peer review.
right,
So we don't have that echo chamber. We always have that kind of battle. We're like, well, I'm gonna fight this back. I'm gonna fight this, and it's like the right, because they just unify in their toxic viewpoint, and just like they all sync together. And then they figured out how to weaponize our impulse for peer review, because good people are like, am I right about that? And am I right about that? And lately I'm just like, you know what? We can just unapologetically say, if 95% of all mass shootings are on the right, we can make that assumption, and just start pushing that truth to combat the narratives that they do to protect these white supremacy ideals.
Well,
yeah,
there's a second problem. I'm sorry, I'll let you go in a second, but there's a second problem with that. Is that we as a society, and this is going back to the fucking Civil War, we have been conditioned to excuse the violence and treason of, and I write about this all the time too.
Yes.
But we've been conditioned to excuse the violence of racist white men, like
Yes.
over and over and over. The Civil War, the original fascist movement back in the 1930s,
Mhm.
the Jim Crow, the KKK, the fucking the insurrection. It's always over and over and over and over.
Yep.
We have to look forward for the good of the country. We have to look forward for the good of the country. We can't look back. It's divisive. It's divisive. It's divisive.
Yeah.
And we can never ever hold racist white men accountable for the
Yeah.
things they do, especially when they do it in a very serious, large scale way.
Yeah.
Because then it's just too divisive. It'll tear the country apart. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
this is an article I wanted to write for next week, but I think we've hit a tipping point where they've pushed it so far,
Yeah.
so over the top, where it's like we here on the left, and the Democratic Party is reaching its limit of old white guys, like James Carville, who are going to retire and die soon, and be replaced by younger people who just are tired of going, oh, we have to look forward. We can't look back. We're getting to that point where it's like, no, you know what? I don't want to look forward anymore. I want to look back with a fucking pickaxe. And
Yeah.
I've got my pitchfork, I've got my torches, and I want some fucking justice for this shit. I'm
Yes.
tired
Yeah.
of fucking forgiving the racist white men. So,
Right.
I think we're just about there, because look how angry people are right now. We've got 3 more fucking years of this.
Yeah.
And they're going to be so much worse by the time it's done, that the Democrats of 2029, when they're in power, all
Yeah.
they're going to be hearing from the base is, don't you fucking dare tell us
Yeah.
to look forward. Because imagine what they're going to do for the next 3 fucking years trying to stay in power.
Yeah.
Imagine what the right's going to do for the next 3 years. And then who's going to dare sit there and say, you know what? We won. Let's just look forward.
Yeah.
Absolutely fucking not.
That's the good winner. Go ahead, Archer.
And you mentioned how, all of this goes back to the Civil War, even the founding of this country, with mass shootings and stuff. And this whole liberal mass shooter, conservative mass shooter really glosses over the fact that this is largely a white people problem, right?
Yes.
Catch a lot of shit for using that phrase, white people problem. But that's essentially what it boils down to. And when you go back as far as, like Opinionated Ogre just did, going back to the Civil War and Revolutionary War, that's that's a product of all of that. And it's settling grievances by the barrel of a gun. They in the white mind, and my generally, right? I'm not talking about all white people. I'm just talking about certain people that get triggered like this. They think that that's the only way to achieve justice. Yeah, I'll get him. I'm gonna kill him. You killed him.
Yeah.
So how is that justice? Like he's dead now. He got away with whatever he did because you killed him, right? Doesn't make sense to most of us, right? It's not logically sound. And I always think back to this article I read in the Atlantic. It's probably 10 years ago. I think it was Ibram X. Kendi who wrote it, and it was called The Lynch Mob of One. And he was talking about mass shooters. And
Yeah.
with a high-powered rifle, you can be a lynch mob of one. You look at the top supermarket and went after black people. You look at Dylan Roof, who attacked, shot up that church, killing black people. And you when you start thinking of it as a lynch mob of one in a more general sense, targeting Jewish people, targeting Latinos, targeting whoever, it just starts to make sense, right? And then when you add in the context of our history, it starts to really open your eyes to it being a white people problem. And like, I can't emphasize enough that parents really need to start paying more attention to what
Yes.
their kids are doing online, man. Like, you don't have to be that dickhead parent who's like up their ass all the time, but at least talk to them. Listen to what
Yeah.
they're saying. If they sound just a little bit extremist, you need to start pushing back like right away,
Yeah.
because the next mass shooter could be in your house. It could be your coworker. He could
Yeah, if
be.
they start listening to Jordan Peterson, if they start listening to Joe Rogan, if they start listening to fucking Andrew Tate, it's like nip that shit in the bud.
Exactly.
And that's the other thing we always mentioned, that like this mechanism to financially support white supremacy is so strong in the United States. Like,
It is.
and I mean, we get so frustrated with the Democrats. Will Fullwood always, he's like, Walter, you keep expecting them to be decent, and it's like, we know. I mean, there are decent actors within that party, but then there's like people that, in my opinion, are overtly racist, and the rest of the party never, they criticize you. Like if I say, James Carville shouldn't have said that about Jasmine Crockett, people are like, Walter, don't start the circular firing squad. It's like, he's the one who fucking
Yeah,
said
really.
something.
He pulled the trigger already. Fuck him.
Yeah. And I'm saying too, like, people are like, Tallarico should be the guy who comes forward because he's the one that stands to benefit from that guy's racist rhetoric. So it's up to us to pressure Tallarico. If he really is what he says he is, walk the fucking walk. Don't just talk the talk. Say that's not acceptable. But I mentioned this, and some guy comes out of the woodwork online. He's like, well, then they'll just say that he's like assuming a black woman can't do her job. And it's like, that's nonsense, that argument. It's like, don't be worried. Don't let worry about what people are going to say be your argument for not acting with integrity. Just act with integrity and let the chips fall as they may. And getting back to what you guys have said, so many of these problems we're in now are because of the refusal to act with integrity. Hold evil people accountable. Why is that negative? Go ahead, Ogre. You look like you got something to say.
No, what Arturo was saying before about white people problems. I have done that to people before when I've had people, it's been a while. It's been a minute since I've had a troll come on and been like, oh, black on black crime. And I was like, oh, we want to talk about black on black crime. Let's talk about white people crime. The overwhelming majority of pedophiles are white people. The overwhelming majority of rapists, white men. The majority of white on white murder, white men. I mean, that's just true anyway. Like when they talk about black on black crime, most black people are killed by black men. Most white men are killed by white men. That's just a
proximity thing.
Yeah, thank you. That was the word I was looking for. It's a proximity thing. So they don't want to hear that part, but it's just like that's just the way it is. And I go on like most white collar crime committed by white men. Like the billions and billions of dollars a year are stolen by white men. It's like, I don't know. Yep. Most drunk drivings committed by white men. I don't know. Sounds like America has a, criminal white man problem.
Yes.
I get so mad. So mad. It's so fucking hilarious. Because they don't want it. Well, that's because most people in this country are white men. It's like, oh, I don't know. Still sounds like we need to do something. We need to police all these white men. They sound like a danger to the community. When is the white community going to do something about white men? Yep. And then they just foam at the fucking mouth. It is quite hilarious.
It is. And, it just kills me how racist white dudes will always try to portray white people as this benevolent group, right? We ended slavery. No, the fuck you didn't, okay? The Haitian Revolution, slave uprisings, there's a lot of pressure put on by outside forces and had these slaveholders freaking out, right? So white people didn't end slavery. They were forced to. And, you look, they try to pretend that white people are this benevolent group, and like, they're the most violent people in our history. In the whole Western Hemisphere, white folks from Europe are the most violent, genocidal people ever. Like hundreds of millions of people died in their colonization project, right? Like, this whole manifest destiny idea that they're chosen by God to colonize the Americas. Like, man, fuck out of here, dude. Like, this whole idea of religious superiority is, it's been around for a long time, thousands of years and shit. But to sit here and try to portray yourself as some benevolent group when you were the exact opposite of that, it's just astounding to me. It really is.
That's the thing that freaks them out the most. Not just white people in general, but a certain type of white person. When you talk about white privilege, you will get people. I mean, you get everyone on the right freaks out, but you also get a bunch of people on the left who get really mad when you bring up white privilege because they don't want to acknowledge that it exists. Like, I think it was like a decade ago, it might have been a little longer at this point, when people first started talking about white privilege as just like openly out, just normally, right? As they normalized that concept, there was a huge amount of pushback, obviously from the right, but also from the left. They did not want to hear about it because the only, the thing with white privilege is it has to be invisible, right? You can't acknowledge it exists. It has to be the air you breathe, because once you acknowledge it exists, well, then everyone can see it. And it's like, well, how come white people get treated differently? Why do more white people get away with smoking marijuana than black people when they smoke it at the same, the same levels, right? The same percentage. And yet more black people get arrested for it, even though, just numerically, a lot more white people smoke it, that sort of thing. And they didn't want to hear about it because they didn't want to be confronted with the fact that, while, my life isn't easy. It was like, yes, but it's easier. You don't have to have an easy life to have it easier than a black person in similar, if not identical, circumstances. And that's the thing that white people didn't want to acknowledge. But it's also the thing that they really, really fear, is that, especially once Obama was elected, is that in a
accountability
world, well, it's in a world where there is no white privilege, right? And this is the thing that's really freaking them out. And this is why we're dealing with this white nationalist fascist freak out. In a world where there's no white privilege, right? Where the playing field is even, white people are going to discover that they're not special.
Yeah.
You're not actually smarter. You're not blessed by God. You're not genetically superior.
Yeah.
You're just average, just like everybody else.
Yeah.
And without those perks and privileges, well, you're not going to have most of the wealth. You're not going to be most of the CEOs. You're not going to be most of the politicians. And that really scares them. And so they just look at the world and figure, well, if we end up being the minority, then they're going to treat us the way we've always treated them, which is not true. But they need to imagine it's true. And that gives them the excuse to crack down even harder in order to forestall the future where they're no longer the special center of the universe and mommy's special little boy.
Well, it's so important what you're saying too, because so many people are still just programmed to maintain that toxic ideology, and it's white supremacy. I mean, the rant got started because Shane and I were bitching about white people, and Arturo was in the comments laughing about us because we're just like, "Fuck white people," And but it really is. And then you get, but you get that every time you make a comment like we're talking about, you get the hashtag not all group, which is that thought terminating cliche, right? They're not saying that to be helpful. They're saying that to divert you away from this bigger topic that, as you said, is hidden. And like that's why guys like James Carville are so dangerous. He's kind of hidden behind the shadows. He's kind of coasting along on this way it's always been. He's deliberately sabotaging, the political careers of prominent progressives. And then he snickers, and good people come out of nowhere to defend him, and they don't even know why. See, and I think that's the tricky thing, because we got a very small percentage, I honestly believe, maybe I'm wrong, I think it's a small percentage that are deliberately evil. Then a lot of people are just kind of sleepwalking through their existence, doing the things that they've been kind of indoctrinated and programmed to do. And so then there's the other side, and that's us. We're trying to be like, no, it's like, don't hit me with that not all argument. It's okay to say white on white crime is a problem we should be talking about. Because we don't even talk about how white supremacy is the number one. We got open domestic white supremacy terrorist groups in the United States. And there's no activism to stop that. The KKK is still active. And, we got podcasters calling for the death of people. Extreme right-wing activists are murdering politicians. Even right-wing politicians call for violence against their rivals. That's all illegal, and that's never held accountable for, all because they're protected under that collective veil of, let's look the other way of white supremacy and this everything America was built on, all the nonsense of manifest destiny and supremacy and all that.
But remember, you and I, all of us, we're personally responsible for the murder of Charlie Kirk because we just repeated the things he said back verbatim. It's our fault.
Man, it's our fault. Yeah. It wasn't the guy who like essentially was killed in an
Oh, no.
environment of
Are
his
you there?
own making, right?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely not. Definitely not.
Right,
Wasn't his fault. You can't
right,
blame. Stop blaming the victim. Stop
right,
victim
right.
blaming. Stop it. Stop it.
Yeah.
He's innocent. It's just. You cannot blame Saint Charlie the Exsanguinated.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I think I think the best way to address this stuff, and for all of Castro's faults and stuff in Cuba, in the '80s, late '80s, he admitted that not addressing race, because it was a whole class thing, right? Once we, make everybody equal class, race won't be an issue. Well, that's the part of Marxism where, Marx got it wrong. Because if you don't address it, it continues to be a problem. And it wasn't until then that they really started focusing on like our African history, right? Like, I'm doing ancestry and stuff. I realized that a lot of my family's Yoruban, most of my family's Afro-Cuban, and like these connections with our history, right? And then confronting the horrifying parts of that history, how we became me looking like a white dude who's from Cuba with a huge Yoruban family, from Africa. There's a lot of trauma involved in me being in this position. But like we're taught, like I was taught, like my grandma and stuff, because I was born in the US, but we're taught to like address it, confront it, learn from it, and move forward.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the biggest hurdle in this country because we just don't confront it. Everybody, like white people are like, I'm not gonna be held to account for something my ancestors did. Like I didn't do it, they did it. No, okay, fine. Fine. I
But you
somewhat
are
agree with that.
perpetuating the system they created.
Right.
So
Yep.
yeah, you
Yep.
kind of are.
You,
So
yeah, you have to address it so we don't perpetuate the system, right? So we can shatter these, white people problems, you know what I mean? Like if you don't and when it comes to the not all, when I say white people problems or anybody mentions white people, not all is implied, right?
Yeah. That
I'm not going to
absolutely.
say I'm not going to say not all white people when it's pretty strictly a white people problem. It's implied it's not all of y'all,
it's
but it
kind of
is
like
a white
the two in
it's a
Black
white thing.
Lives Matter 2. We don't have to
Right.
say 2 because we all get that.
Right. Right. It's implied, right? So like and then some people just don't think beyond the surface. Like I told Shane a while back, smooth brain thinkers, surface level. They don't go any deeper than what and like you said, some people passively take in the news. That's the smooth brain, right? Where they're not digging deeper beyond that story to find out any kind
Yeah.
of context. You hear in the news this
Yeah.
escalation between the United States and Venezuela. No, it's an escalation by the United States alone.
Yeah.
Venezuela has
Yeah.
done nothing and is doing nothing right now, and that's the smart play.
Wait, are you trying to say that Venezuela isn't the major source of fentanyl coming into the United States?
Oh man.
We all know it
Yeah.
grows on trees there.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! I thought,
That's
wow.
why I went. Yeah. But what part of all this problem though too is because everybody economically is always deliberately up against the wall because we just don't have time. Then I mean, a lot of people that aren't working in the media, and I guess it's giving grace, or it's just so I'm not so angry at all the people that don't see what I think is obvious. I'm trying to understand that too. But it's like, yeah, if you're hungry, it's hard to like take the time to watch the news and discern what's true and what's they're just like, whatever, I'm just kind of passively hearing that. And that's why the Republicans crash the economy every time they get into power. Because they know
Yeah.
desperate people are easier to control. Then they can hit us with their tidal wave of lies, and people just believe it. And then they turn to me like I'm causing problems because I'm making them think a little bit. And that's hard. I mean, when you're already up against the wall, you can't afford turkey for your kids on Christmas or Christmas presents. I understand their frustration. So then it just compounds.
Right? Who has time to protest when you have to have a third job?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's all
Right.
by design. Fuck.
And Donald Trump yelled at us about how much cheaper turkeys are. So
Yeah, it's true. He
so
yelled, so it's true.
he screamed at us
That's part
about
of
it.
white supremacy too, just getting
Yeah,
abused
exactly.
by the father figure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we
That's a
laugh.
great
That's fucking
Yeah,
example.
he
true.
went full patriarchy.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. But there's the thing too. In I read Virginia Giuffre's book, which I recommend. It's hard, but I recommend reading it. And he has his fixation with white girls too. And so just like this, the connection between white supremacy and pedophilia and religion and the patriarchal system. All that stuff gets all mixed together, and that's America for you. That's what we got in the White House. That's what all the Republicans fucking voted for. And us not talking about it isn't going to protect your kids from getting raped or murdered. I mean, then you got people like Nick Fuentes, who admits he's a virgin and spends all of his time furious at women who he wants to control. Because if he talks to a woman his own age and of equivalent power, she's gonna be like, you're a fucking joke. So that turns them into pedophiles, and that's part of the pedophile pipeline.
And that's really what it is. And that's what I've been explaining to people for years. If you're an adult right winger who hates women, you cannot go out and find a woman your own age. You can't, because they're going to be like, hey, let's get together. And you're going to be like, you're a fucking whore. And you're going to be like, whoa, I am not dating this fucking guy. This guy's a weirdo. But if you go out and find yourself a 14-year-old, and, then you control them, and then you've got them locked down. You get them pregnant because they can't get an abortion. You marry them, and now you've gotten rid of no-fault divorce, so now they can't leave you. Oh, and now you've also gotten rid of the fact that they can't go out and get a job. They don't have a college education. They have no money of their own. And here comes my cat again. Hi, Chim Chim. So, now you have them completely. I mean, this is how they used to control women back in the day. You have no money, you have no prospects, you have 2, 3, 4 kids, and you have no way to escape. And then your husband owns you. Quite literally. You have no options but to do what he wants, when he wants, how he wants. And Republicans loved that. They thought those were the good old days before feminism ruined it all. That's what the whole trad wife thing is about. They want to go back to those good old days, except, trad wives keep finding out that the trad wife life is a fucking nightmare. So this is not really something you want to return to.
Yeah, and there's other things we don't discuss either in this department too, and that's like the pedophile to youth pastor pipeline, man. Like, pedophiles love being youth pastors.
They go where the easy prey is. They go the same thing with the Boy Scouts, and the church. Yep.
Right. And parents so willingly just let their kids go to these people's houses, and they're mostly men, right? Youth pastors. If you notice that.
Yeah. Well, they don't allow women to be pastors.
Right.
A lot of times.
So it's
prohibited.
Women are Sunday school, right? And then youth pastors are, the guys who get to interact with the kids more privately. And that's a scary, like, dude, like, hello.
Yeah.
I would never allow my kid to go with an adult man anywhere without some sort of supervision. Are you kidding me? No, dude.
Yeah.
Just because he's a grown man doesn't make him, a trusty caregiver, right?
Just because he's a religious figure of authority doesn't make him trusted either. And Elizabeth mentioned, hi, Elizabeth. She mentioned it's not back in the day. It's very much the case for many women across the world. Yeah. And we absolutely want to bring visibility to that, because it's another thing that's not mentioned. It needs to be in the media constantly. This isn't innocent shit. And when they tell us, oh, you should make friends with these repugnant fucking Republican fascists, the reality is that they're child predators, and they're trying to subjugate our daughters to these just horrific states of abuse. And and then it's not polite for us to talk about that. Like you were saying about Charlie Kirk. We're not allowed to say the words that Charlie Kirk says because it's offensive. Like his actual language, we're supposed to revere him, but never just actually look into what he said or what he stood for. We're supposed to make fucking friends with these people. You wonder why a third of the country doesn't vote? It's because we have openly awful people. And they say things like, and they're openly saying it. They say things, well, I need to meet a young girl who I can mold into the woman I want. That's some sick fucking things to say. That's a sick fucking thing to say. And a lot of people will just say that. And the good people do have to. Somebody says some shit like that around you, you got to call them out. Like, that's some pretty sick pedophile shit you just said. Now get the fuck away from my kids. And then he's going to cry, oh, it's so unfair. He's going to put a social media post. Now my daughter won't talk to me because I openly endorse pedophilia, and my daughter won't let me around my grandkids. And for some reason, those of us who cut people like that out of our life get the pressure against us? Are you fucking kidding me? It's fucking mad.
But that goes back to the whole thing. We don't hold white, racist, disgusting, gross men accountable. That's why it's always the pressure on us on the left to reach across the aisle to them, right?
Yeah.
When Democrats win, we have to reach across the aisle. When
Mhm.
Republicans win, well, all right, well, you lost, Democrats. Time to bend the knee. You have to do
Yep.
whatever
Yeah.
Republicans want. They won. And then when we win again, well, it's time to reach across the aisle. The press does this every
Yeah.
single fucking time. I promise you, next year, when we win the election, when we fucking destroy them in the midterms, within a week, you're going to see
Yep.
dozens and dozens of headlines about how it's time for Democrats to work with the regime.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's coming.
Yeah.
It
They're
always
gonna
does.
anoint Fetterman. Yeah.
Yeah,
Fuck,
come on,
yeah.
it's time. It's time to work. It's time for Democrats to work with Republicans. But if you go
For the
back a
good of the.
year, if you go back to earlier this year, there were no fucking headlines like that. Nothing,
Right.
nothing at all. They won. They won by the skin of their fucking teeth. They
Yeah.
had
Right.
the narrowest House margin in my lifetime, and there were
Yep.
no headlines saying Republicans should work with Democrats to do the business of the people. Nothing like that. But
Yep.
Right.
that's watch for it.
And they
Guarantee you, promise.
and the media was blaming the Democrats for the shutdown. Hi, Ellie. And
Yeah.
so that's another case of it being unfair. It's like blatantly they own every part of the government, and the media is still blaming Democrats for things. Just the blatant unfairness of that. That's why everybody's got to turn to this new media. But beware, I keep telling people we keep seeing the encroachments from like the old guard that wants things the way it used to be. They encroach upon this. They're trying to shut us up because we're
Yeah.
the ones saying that. It's like, look, assholes, all you got to do is get 4 Democrats to vote with you. You have to compromise a little bit. We have fucking spineless Schumer just conceding without a negotiation. It's like, you can demand a negotiation, you asshole, because they need you. And it's, yeah, like just the narrative is always undercuts us at every step of the way. And
And
it's,
now
I
you've
think
got
people
Nate
are good.
Silver whining about Heather Cock Richardson. It's like, okay, now you know that's when we've arrived, when they've started whining about the #1 Substack that's not the fake ass free press. They're just
Right.
like, oh yeah, no, she's terrible. Oh my god, she's awful. It's like, okay, yep, no, they've definitely noticed Substack. They've definitely
Yeah.
noticed it, and they don't like it.
Right. And that's another issue that you brought up is, a lot of these mainstream media people who want things to go back, like we're never going back to anything, right? Like
Mhm.
there's no going back ever to anything. You just keep moving forward. And these media people like to silence us. What they're doing is trying to drown us out. Taking
Yeah.
over, highly produced, stuff in their little home studios because they're already millionaires. And, you have working class people who work their asses off for their money, giving them money.
Yeah.
And they're being fed the same stuff you're seeing on mainstream media. Like Aaron Parnas, 90% of his work is just reading headlines from corporate media. So you're giving a guy money to just repeat the same thing, the same corporate news that is bowing to Trump is putting out there, right? So, there's a lot of appeasement of this administration or regime, and it's just astounding to me. You see the CBS thing, and they did that whole town hall with Erica Kirk, and
Which
their
bombed, thank
rating,
God.
yeah, their ratings
Yeah.
tanked, and
Oh.
then now they're going to do this thing about how we should be talking to each other, right? The right and the left again, meeting in the middle, right? And
Meanwhile, it's
guess
gonna have
what?
JD fucking Vance on it.
No, and their little advertisement at the end says brought to you by Bank of America. Well, no shit.
Yep.
No shit. Are you really going to pay these journalists who left CBS to come to Substack who are already millionaires to feed you that? Maybe they're not funded by Bank of America anymore, but they're funded by you and they're still feeding you the same bullshit. So it's just astounding to me to see people be like, "Oh, screw corporate media," and then come over here and pay a bunch of corporate media people.
Wait, are
Yeah,
you
Yeah.
trying to say?
they're
Are you
not
trying to say
independent.
that I don't look professional and polished?
I mean, look,
You
like
see the
like Walter,
blemishes?
right?
I thought my makeup was perfect.
Like you look at your background, you look at my background right now behind us, right? Like
Hey,
we're
excuse me,
we're
my
not
background is fucking awesome. Thank you very
It
much. I would
is.
right.
take that
There you
over a
go,
studio
right?
any
So
day.
like we're not in some little polished studio, and stuff like that. We're doing work and we're doing it, you know, on a level and using language that reaches people, right? I see the
It,
media types use all these words all the time, and I'm like, "What the fuck
yeah,
are you trying to say?" And I'm like, "You're talking shit about Trump, just talk shit about him. We don't need a $3,000 word for that."
yeah, and you're talking. It's like people that don't know how to change the oil in their car, and they actually don't
Yeah,
know. They don't know where groceries come from, And people are handing over their money to them. I don't understand it. And things like Kinzinger and Cohen and all those people that are
yeah,
again they're already millionaires. It's like if you're gonna give money to somebody that was on the January 6th committee, and give it to Jamie Raskin. I mean, that guy's a sincerely. He's working really hard, or Adam Schiff and Benny Thompson. Those guys are great guys. To the ones that vote against the Voting Rights Act? Are you fucking kidding me? It's like
yeah,
the one time you stood up and said, "Gee, I don't like this guy because he tried to have me killed." All of a sudden, we're like, "Oh, he's the second coming." And it's like, yeah, it's deliberate. The whole media it's so far on the right. We never get none of the things we talk about are ever represented. It's so easy to come up with topics. They're like, this is kind of important. The media isn't even going to touch this. I talk with my friend Bob Dana a lot. He's a nuclear engineer, and he was like during that time when they were bombing the enrichment facilities. He's just like everything they're saying in the media about enriching uranium is just fucking wrong. Everything is wrong that they're saying. So he brought me on. He's like, yeah, this guy was like the top 3 nuclear guy in the country at one time, and he's just like, this is how you do it. He's like going through. He didn't say anything classified. I asked him a few questions. He was like, I don't remember, but he legit knew, and he was just like, He's like, I've been sitting here throwing bricks at my television because every fucking mainstream media outlet just tells you lies, and you know less from watching some slick guy in a suit, in a fancy studio telling you bullshit. And it's like, we need real people. You got to get your news from real people.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
End
uh,
of room.
When like foreign countries, like I posted a clip right this morning from Telesur in Venezuela, right, and U.S. media would call that propaganda. But if you watch the clip, she uses nothing but the truth about what's her name, who did the Vanity Fair, the White House advisor who did the Vanity
oh,
Fair
Susan
article.
Wiles.
Yeah, Susan Wiles. And dude, she went down the list of all the things she said, and like the US media would call this propaganda, but like Venezuela just has to use the truth against us. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you call it
Yeah.
propaganda, but not a lie was told in her
Yeah.
thing. And the way she presented it made it so much worse than our media made it sound like. And it's just like
Oh
you
yeah, their
listen to
job
them and
their
you're like,
job is
yeah,
to downplay it as much as humanly possible.
right, right. And in Venezuela they're gonna play it up. And you just like you listen to
Unless
them
it's
and you're like,
Joe Biden's age, then then
yeah,
it's like, oh my god, it's the worst thing ever.
right, right, right.
You know,
But
and you have to
Trump, yeah,
well, you have to present it as like comedy to even get people to listen, and then it's like you're
yeah,
telling like George Carlin. That guy warned us a lot about what happened. He was like, you look at it now, it's like, fuck, that guy had it all figured out. But he's like, have to do a punchline. Otherwise, you can't even talk about it with people because their minds are so controlled. And that's the thing. The United States, you've got this much of a perspective on the universe. You're not allowed to see. Everything must be seen through the lens of white supremacy,
yeah,
manifest destiny. We're the greatest nation. All these, it's a superior. All these words that we use, and it's just all bullshit. You've said
Um,
it before.
Real
Go ahead.
quick, they've announced that they're not going to be releasing the Epstein files on time. We're gonna
what?
get a chunk of them,
Well,
and then more in a couple of weeks, and then more a couple of weeks after that. So they're dripping them out, which I think has to be the worst possible fucking way to do it. Like,
yeah,
if you're gonna do it, dump them and rip the Band-Aid off. If you keep stringing it out, you're just gonna keep the story going and going and going and
maybe.
going and going. So,
But here's
honestly, I don't know what the fuck they're doing at this point.
Well, here's the part that pisses me off, though. It's like the Democrats are like, "What? We thought that they would actually do what we told them to do." And it's like, you guys haven't been sitting there preparing, legal filings and all these things because you knew they weren't going to do it. You fucking knew. And every time the Republicans act like fucking corrupt monsters, the Democrats always try to act like they're surprised. Well, we really thought that they would, fulfill their word this time. That's what we thought. And it's just like we got to be mad at the Democrats. I think we got to go after them because the
Yeah.
Republicans are a lost cause. Fuck.
No, I agree. I agree. It kills me because like we talked about this earlier about how like when Democrats in power, it's all about, oh, we got to work across the aisle, but when Republicans are, they never do. And
Yeah.
Democrats always have a handful in their party that will vote with Republicans. Like right
Yeah.
now, we got the Henry Cuellar in the House. You got John Fetterman in the Senate. There's a lot of those type of people that and it's still because Cuellar is from Texas and drives me nuts that Pelosi put her finger on the scale for him during those primaries, and he's anti-abortion, he's pro-ICE. He voted on that bill to search unaccompanied minor migrant kids, searching for gang tattoos and stuff. Like, I mean, come on, man. Like, we Democrats have to do better. And like, I think we said this earlier, you can't have a big tent when you're inviting bigots in and pushing
Yeah.
other people out, and that's Cuellar to me.
Yeah.
And Fetterman. It's just ridiculous to see that.
Thoughts, Ogre? Don't do it. Too bad.
I'm with you on that one. Yeah.
Those are my
Oh,
thoughts.
well, we knew it was going to be like this, and it's the other thing is like, because it's a law. I was listening to Thomas Massey's talk about this, and he's like, it's a law now, so you'll be able to prosecute. What's her Bondi? I think it'll be her. She's violated the law now, so she's committing a crime by not releasing these things. And it's like the media needs to say it's like it's going to be accountability for you one day or another. One of our biggest strengths right now is just we should be talking about the Nuremberg, the Nuremberg defense every fucking day because that's like the one thing right now because we don't have any power, and it's like you have power now, but if history is any indication, you're not going to have it forever. And if you commit illegal acts now, you're going to be held accountable, especially the guys lower down the chain.
Well, that was one of the things. That's what there's an article I wrote earlier this week. Is that one of the things that's keeping them from really going fucking crazy, especially on the street level, right? The Proud Boys and the militias and all that. We don't have brown shirts. We have ICE and we have CPB, but we don't have a proper brown shirt. And the fascist movements generally tend to have street level violence because they're terrorist organizations. And the reason we don't have that is because Trump cannot pardon state crimes. And if they show up in, Virginia or California or Pennsylvania and they start beating up protesters, I mean, the DOJ is not going to do anything about it, but the states will. And 25, this is what I wrote in the article, 25 years in a state prison is just as bad as 25 years in a federal prison. And they will be arrested for that shit. And Trump can't do anything about it. He's trying to do something about it. Like he's been pardoning people for state crimes, even though he can't actually do that. Because I think what they're trying to do is get it in front of the Supreme Court so the Supreme Court can just invent more presidential powers. I mean, it's specifically in the Constitution that he can do federal, not state. And they're hoping that they just reinterpret it to mean he can pardon any crime. And once he does that, if they do that, then we're going to start seeing the Proud Boys and the militias rampaging across the country because then they'll be protected. And I'm really, really hoping it doesn't come to that because that would be really, really fucking bad.
Yeah.
But they would have to they would have to twist the Constitution into some real serious fucking pretzel shit, but they've done it before, right?
Yeah.
They invented presidential immunity. They rewrote the 14th Amendment to say, well, if you commit insurrection, you can still run for office. So we're going to see.
Yeah. I want to address a comment. He said, we shouldn't blame the Democrats. They're not causing the problem. They're ineffectively able to address the problems without breaking the laws. I disagree with the last part. I agree that they're ineffective very strongly, but there's a lot of shit they could do, like Tennessee, challenge those election results. You can file some cases. They're so fucking passive. And there have been good things. I mean, there are places where they are doing things, but we should be pressuring them to do more. We absolutely should be blaming them. I mean, they shouldn't have agreed to a debate in the election. Biden should have never agreed to debate that fucking guy because the other guy didn't debate in any of his primaries.
Yeah,
Don't
he should have said
validate
he's
his
an insurrectionist.
candidacy.
I'm not debating an insurrectionist.
Yeah, and just say that. And just because, but your guy's 80 years old, and they had him on they worked him so hard. He had 6 events, and he comes to the debate sick. Are you fucking kidding me? It's like these guys are supposed to be the best of the best with Ivy League degrees, and they don't know that when a guy's like 80 years old and he gets a cold, he's not gonna look good on the debate stage, and you might lose the election. So just don't put him in that situation. But it's like, yeah, sitting there saying, I really get frustrated when people tell me not to blame Democrats. Democrats need to do better. They need to do more. They have power to do more, and we elected them to do more. They do fucking nothing. Go ahead.
What does Thaddeus say to something like 99 senators approving Marco Rubio to run the State Department? What do you say to Cory Booker
Yeah. Don't
being
know.
giddy about Marco Rubio in the State Department? And look at where Marco Rubio is leading us down this path, right? With the State Department and the White House and all this nonsense that he's just kind of rolling with. Even though he probably doesn't believe half of what the White House is saying, because he probably knows the truth better than they do. But you have a lot of that. You had Schumer bending to the budget deal earlier this year, and getting screwed by Republicans because they were going to make concessions later, and of course they backed out like they always do. So I mean, there's a lot that we could be blaming Democrats for. And I get the whole little circular firing squad thing, but if you want the party to be a better party, you need to
Yeah.
accept these criticisms and learn from them and move forward. Like hiding the post-mortem thing from the DNC, yeah, that's not the way forward. That's not how you build trust with your
Yeah, I
constituency.
feel like
Oh,
I feel like hiding the postmortem had more to do with protecting consultants, because I
Right,
have a feeling
exactly.
that the postmortem says, yeah, everything the consultant said was wrong, and they're the
Right.
ones that fucked it all up. And the consultant said, well, if we release that, that's going to make us look bad, and that will cost us hundreds of millions of dollars. We
yeah.
prefer that you didn't do that,
Yep.
Yeah,
And
because
there,
everything they said was fucking wrong.
I still think the consultants intentionally sold Kamala Harris out. I really
I do
do.
too. Yeah.
I think they did. Told her to alienate progressives and try to court conservatives, and then, everything from Palestine to the trans issue to gun control. They had her on TV when they asked her about gun control. She's like, "Oh, I own a gun. I have a Glock," and she's trying to be cocky about it. And I'm like, you're
Yeah.
trying to appeal to MAGA with that one, and you're
Yeah.
alienating a bunch of people who want gun control laws by having that attitude. She didn't say she was against gun control laws, but the insinuation was there based on her reaction, her expression,
Yeah.
and how she responded to the question. Somebody comes to my house, I'm gonna shoot them. Like that's
Yeah.
what MAGA wants to hear. Everybody would do that. That's not something that needs to be discussed, right? If your life is threatened and you own a gun, you're going to shoot.
Yeah.
But I think that the consultants led her down that road, and I think that's what cost her. And even though the consultants
Yes.
tried to sell her out, she came damn close. Even
Yeah.
with all the alleged rigging and stuff, she was still very close.
Well, there's the concept of the glass cliff. There's the glass ceiling. They hold women down that way, and then they have the glass cliff where they put women into a position where they can't succeed, and then they sabotage them. And I keep saying,
Right.
if we got to defeat fascism, we got to clean up our own house. Democrats have to clean up their own house. And where again, because people are saying to us, we shouldn't criticize the Democrats. Well, maybe the Democrats should appeal to us for their big tent and invite us into their big tent and make an effort to come our way. And we can agree to disagree, and we can disagree and still be friends, and they can listen to us for a little bit instead of hard no on everything we say and then open mind to anything right of us, which is totally bullshit. And all it does is fail. And all we've done is see that fail over and over and over again. And everybody has to change their mind and recognize that. And we're going to keep failing.
Well, they can't be reached. MAGA can't be reached. The right
Yes.
Republicans
No,
cannot be reached at this point.
no.
They're so far gone. Never mind the propaganda. Never mind. They're so far gone. They cannot be reached. These are people who openly voted for concentration camps,
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
Yeah.
openly
Yeah.
who openly embrace fucking Nazis. There's nothing to reach at this point. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that was obvious back during Trump's first term when they were putting kids in cages, and his base laughed. They
Yeah.
thought it was funny. They got off on it. Like, some of them got like fucking sexually aroused by it.
Yep.
These are not good people. There's
Yes.
no middle ground for them. They openly talk about how they want to purge the United States of anyone who's brown, gay, trans, They don't care. They want to get rid of all the Jews, you know, except for Israel. They want to send them back to Israel so they could do their biblical prophecy bullshit. They are not good people. They're a fucking mass murdering genocidal cult. And we can't reach them.
They're never going to vote for somebody with a D by their name. So why bother?
Right.
Why
They
not?
will never vote for us. The best you can do is to get them to stay home. So go out there and say, he's fucking destroying the country. You don't got to vote for us. Just stay fucking home. And as for the rest of you, vote for us. You got MAGA, stay fucking home. Stay home. We will fucking get you jobs. We will fucking get you health care. Just ignore the rest of us and just ignore the rest. You know what? You don't like the gay stuff? That's fine. We're going to get you fucking jobs and health cares. You can fucking live with the gay stuff. Everyone else, we're going to take care of the fucking least of us. And we're going to help these fucking MAGA guys. Whatever. You guys just fucking wallow in your fucking bullshit hate. But if you keep voting for Trump, you're going to be fucking homeless. Is that really what you want?
Yeah. Yeah. And then the Democrats think they can listen to, or they can make friends with failed Republicans. Like, these are Republicans that couldn't win Republican races, and we're making buddies with them. Like, they're out of government now. That's our key to victory. The guys that the Republicans rejected, that makes no fucking sense either.
Yeah, unless they come over here and say, sorry about everything I've ever done. I was lying the entire time. I'm a fucking horrible person. Here's all the secrets I have to spill on all these fucking horrible people, and I'm going to spend the next 20 years apologizing. I'm not really interested.
Yeah, but they don't come out and stand for universal health care, do they? These converted Republicans, they're just like, I was wrong. Now I'm going to be active about education. We got to pay off education. Nope. They just demand millions and millions of dollars in donations for their own personal enrichment while they continue to live on free socialized health care because they were formerly in government.
Yeah, it's like, are you going to fucking support anything on the left, or are you just going to say, well, I don't like Trump? It's like, that's not good enough.
That's it. They're like, a lot of liberals are enchanted by their anti-Trump stance. They're never Trumper thing. But at the end of the day, they're the dog whistle conservatives that were there before Trump, you know, voting against voting rights. Like, you know, in Texas, for example, we've had like, I don't know, 20 something voting laws passed in just the last like 6 years. Like, there's so much confusion about who can and can't vote right now, you know,
which of course is the point.
Right. People wonder why half the state stays home because they don't, you know, nobody knows. But, you know, you can't invite somebody who voted for these things, who took away our rights just because he's a never Trumper. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so he took off the Klan hood. Now he's your friend? No. You know what I mean? No way.
Yeah, but no, they took off the Klan hood, but they just put it in their closet.
Yeah, right. They're waiting to bring it back out again.
They did not fucking burn they did not burn the hood. They just put it in their closet, and they're just waiting.
Yep.
Clean cut Klansman. That's what I call them.
They're waiting for Trump to go away so they can go back to their party and put their hood back on.
Yeah, then they can run. Look at how I suckered the liberals into paying me when you know, and that back. Now that we're in charge again, I'm a double agent. I'm back on your side. But then what you said too, because the fucking Democrats are always quick to be like, you guys better start voting for us, and they never stand up to defend our voting rights. That's never an issue. That's never something we talk about. We sit there and passively allow the Republicans to invent voter fraud and check every election over and over and over again. But when it comes time for the Democrats to do something like that, we're like, well, we can't do that. That makes us like them. They never stand up for our rights. And yet they have the nerve to blame us for not voting. It's just bullshit. You wonder, they're actively driving people out of their tent. It's with a laugh. They're whipping us and making us leave.
I feel like we were driven out of their tent, you know, because they raised a trans kid, you know, and like I will gladly come back into the tent as soon as you get rid of all these bigots, because you know, I'm not interested in being a part of that anymore. I've always been registered independent, right? I don't, you know, register for each party. I don't really, I'm like really hate Republicans. I do, right? But like, I can't call myself a Democrat or a liberal. You know, I've always been leftist. I always tell my brother who's MAGA, I tell my brother all the time because I love to fuck with him. I'm like, shit, man, I'm a borderline communist, bro. And he just looks at me all crazy just because everything we say or do, they think is communism, right? And I just like fucking with my older brother. So, but yeah, you know, I tell him that because, you know, I'm so far left of the center right Democratic Party that you might as well. I mean, in this country, I'm, a freaking communist dictator, one of these days, according to liberals, or conservatives especially. And that's what kills me because, like, I call all these people in power, mostly the Republicans, the clean cut Klansmen, right? With 3Ks. And I've been saying that for years. And there's a reason for that because that's who they are, right? Christian nationalism is Klan ideology, all that nonsense. And I don't know, to try to appeal to that, to try to
Yeah.
say somehow we have to meet this fascist idea in the middle just kills me, man. Like, I know, bro. Like, we need to bring the Democratic Party back to progressive ideas
I
instead
mean,
of
and
this.
what is the middle? Like what? They only kill
Right.
half the
Yeah.
Jews? Like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
Right.
the
Yeah.
the age of consent will
Good
be
point.
15 and a half instead of 14. What's the
Yeah.
fucking middle for them?
Yep.
To me, here's what I see the middle is the 13th Amendment, the abolition of slavery that wasn't the abolition of slavery. All it did was add a qualifier. Convict them first. Now they can be slaves. That is what meeting in the middle looks like. It
I mean,
doesn't
that's
abolish
certainly what they
slavery.
would like.
Yeah.
Right.
And I keep
And
I
and to
keep
me,
telling
that's a farce.
I keep telling people, it's like, don't ask me to sacrifice anybody. I got to stand for my
Right.
integrity because they'll bring that out with the trans. It's like, what about the what? It's like, if you want to sacrifice one person, I'm out. You're giving me a choice between two fascists. And then they come and pressure, and like the pressure is so intense against us. Again, we have to, we got to, as Will Fullwood always says, we got to make it integrity. We got to go forward boldly with our integrity. And it's just bizarre how much pressure you get in the United States when you stand for integrity. I would say too, white supremacy is socialism. That's another thing. It's like you guys are so
It's white
anti-socialism.
socialism. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
no, they love
that-
socialism, but only
yeah.
for white people.
Well, like, and
Right.
it's like, and when people say tax the rich, I'm like, let's just stop giving billions and dollars in free government money to the rich. Let's stop giving them subsidies. Let's stop giving them PPP loans. Let's stop giving them bailouts. Fucking farmers just got a huge bailout. It's like, yeah, okay, you social, and it's like, well, white rural rage is a lot of equivalent to white supremacy. It's all the same thing. But yeah, we have to start talking more and more about those. Just the
Yeah.
reality of these crimes.
The argument I make for people when it comes to trans, like I do not. Well, that's not true. I know a trans person in real life, but it's a friend of one of my girls. But I don't have a personal stake in it, right? So
Right.
the thing I explain to them, you don't have to have a personal stake in it. You don't have to know any trans people. You don't even have to care about it or like it or anything. The thing you have to understand is it doesn't stop with trans people. Once they erase trans people, they will move on to the next group. That's how it always starts. And that's the only reason you need to defend them. Doesn't matter anything else in your life, no matter what else you're thinking. The only thing you need to know is that's the first domino.
Yep. Yep.
Once you allow them to erase trans people, they will come for the next group and then the next and then the next and then the next, because that's how they work. They are literally fucking Nazis. The only reason they're picking on trans people is because they're a small, vulnerable group that people find, icky, and they don't
Right.
understand.
And
They'll
that
come.
that's
They'll come for autistic people. They'll come for the
right.
mentally handicapped. They'll come for the homeless. And
Absolutely.
then you sat there and let it happen. And it's like, well, we already did it once. And that's the poem, right? First they came for, and then they came for, and then they came for. That's the
Yeah.
poem. There's a reason that exists.
Right. And
So
that's one of the things I try to tell most people is that the trans population is so small in this country that the chances of you actually meeting a trans person in your life, in your entire life, are very slim. Like,
exactly, I've met one.
chances are you're not gonna meet one.
Yeah.
I know one because I raised one, and he has trans friends, and we have this whole little community, and I'm supportive of all of them, even if their parents aren't, and things like that, and that's fine, it's cool, but like the odds of you meeting a trans person are slim to none. There's
Yeah.
just such a small group of people, and there's this whole freak out about it, and to label that or identity politics or anything like that as a culture war is a slap in the face, because we
Yeah.
are talking about people's rights here. Identity politics are about racism in politics, right?
Yeah.
Trans issues are, you're targeting groups of people And to just say that that's a culture war, it really is a slap in the face to the victims of that hate. And it's not just physical violence that makes people victims. Like, look at what society has been saying online about trans people for the last several years. And if you think that doesn't impact trans kids or trans adults or anything like that, you're sorely mistaken, because I see it.
Right.
Talk about
It's
it.
woke and culture war until it's you.
Right.
And then it's like, what?
Bullshit.
You can't be talking like that about me. It's like, oh, but it was fine 10 minutes ago when it was some other group that wasn't you. Now it's a
Right.
problem. Oh,
Right.
and that's why we said, don't let this fucking happen. But you were like, well, it wasn't me, so I didn't speak out, et cetera, et cetera,
Right.
et cetera.
I saw a comment from Elizabeth where she's saying, "Oh, it's been poor and managed to vote for human rights and not storm government buildings." And yeah, it's true. I hope I'm not misinterpreting Elizabeth's statement there, but I just that it's the white male is the target, I think, and the white men are the targets for a lot of this, and they get that entitlement, and they get to be the ones
Yeah.
that get to perform acts of violence and be infantilized. Oh, they were just kids, like that signal chat,
Oh my
and it's just
fucking
like,
God. Oh my God, he's like 30 years old. Why are you calling him? Oh, they're just kids. They're just
yeah,
kids.
yeah. So I'm gonna have to talk to Elizabeth more. I hope I didn't offend Elizabeth there. That's never my goal, but yeah. And then she said, "And saying human rights is a culture war." It's a challenging problem. And it's like, but the reality is, we're also indoctrinated not even to look at it, and that's the thing. And
Right.
just like the way that these evil, like and it's usually it's the billionaires controlling this because they control all the media, they control all the religion, they control. And just like the rules even that we think we can do. The other day I was driving down the road. I'm like, oh, here's a property right next to the highway, right next to this big city. I'm like, that's going to be a good, valuable property someday. But then I went through the whole process in my mind. Like, if I was to buy it, at the day that it became valuable, somebody with privilege would use eminent domain and get it for themselves, and they'd be the one who make the profit from it. So even if you think you can see a passageway to succeed in this society as it is today, it's going to be cut off. It's only
Yeah.
allowed for privileged white men of a certain group to make any kind of money. None of the other stuff that we've been told is true. It's all lies. And people defend it, not really even knowing or understanding that. Even when they're living in poverty. That's the weird thing to me.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thaddeus House says, white men are the only identity that isn't an identity. And that's
Well,
exactly it. And once you start talking about that, that was the whole thing we were talking about earlier with white privilege. Once you started talking about it, white people lost their fucking minds because whiteness has to be invisible. Once you start
Yeah.
seeing whiteness, you see it everywhere. It's like,
Yeah.
why are all
yeah,
the characters in my commercials white? Why are all the characters on my TV show white? Why aren't there any? Why aren't there any black people? Why aren't there any Asian people? Why aren't there any Latino people? And once they're in there, then the white people are like, oh my God, why aren't there any white people on TV anymore? Bitch, please,
yeah,
90% of them are white. What are you complaining about?
Yeah. Right.
yeah.
Right.
Or educators, and that's another big problem. The lack of representation among other groups, among educators. My wife has found that out. I've told you the story, I think, before, but when she got her degree accredited, they said she could teach English as a second language, but not Spanish. She has a degree from a university in Peru, but the way the system is set up, they're like, well, you're not qualified to teach Spanish. And it's just like there's always a fucking shortage of Spanish teachers, but they're
Right.
deliberately making it so people that have degrees, from foreign nations can't come here and teach Spanish because they don't want. And it's like, and this is not to bash everybody in education because there's brilliant educators who are working very hard.
Yeah.
It's like all the people in all these corrupt systems. And I think Kamala gets a lot of bad press because I think she was sincerely trying to work within a corrupt system. And so then
Yeah.
it's easy to turn around and say, "Oh, well, she's just a corporate Democrat too." And I'm just like, I think she was on the inside. I think she's one of ours and remains. I mean, I hope she runs again. I hope she assembles her own team and doesn't listen to bad counselors who tell her bullshit because they want to sabotage her. But it's really important that we all stay together and start recognizing things like that. More diversity in education would be more diversity in the legal system. We don't have it there
Yeah.
either. More diversity among health professionals. We don't have it there either. And it's all this whole system. It's designed. They're held back. All the best people.
Yeah.
Yes, we need
I
more
say
green
that.
people.
Right.
Yeah,
I say that.
good.
I say that about um assimilation all the time, right? How, white people, whiteness isn't really an identity, right? Because in order to be white, you have to shed your culture and your heritage, right? So most of these white people don't know if they're German, Irish, Italian, whatever, right? For us, for Latinos, they expect us to assimilate to that. Assimilation to them is abandoning our culture and heritage. And dude, I was raised by a very deeply Cuban family in a very diverse community. And like, I ain't giving up my food. I'm going to speak Spanish if I want to. I'm not going to give
Yeah.
up my music. I'm going to still talk to my family. Like, I am not giving up my culture and heritage. And you're not going to sit here and tell me I'm not assimilated enough. I was freaking born here. Like, how much
Assimilation.
more assimilated to Spanish was my first language? You wouldn't know that, right? Listening to me. And it's still not enough. It's never enough. And I'll tell you why it's not enough. Because of my last name. My first name, Arturo Dominguez. Arturo Dominguez. That's why I'm never going to be assimilated enough. I benefit from white privilege when I'm driving around, when I had my diesel truck. Cops didn't fuck with me. They didn't even look my way. I'm driving a big diesel truck, I'm white enough.
You were driving a
But
white
the
mobile.
minute
Yeah.
Right, and then the minute they run my plates or see my ID, you see the demeanor change. And that's the same thing across the board with jobs, with all that stuff. I know a lot of Latinos that tried to anglicize their name, instead of going by, it's Joe something, they try to make it as white as possible. There's
Ted
nothing for
Cruz.
me. Right, like I can't do right. Rafael Cruz, right?
Right.
Ted,
Yeah.
yeah. Same thing, same thing. So like I benefit from the white privilege, but then I also see that switch, sometimes. Like I can be in white spaces and hear racist shit come out all the time. But then the minute somebody hears me speak Spanish, oh, I didn't know you were Mexican. I didn't know you spoke Mexican. I'm like, Cuban, and I spoke Spanish.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck, dude? Like, are you guys really? I mean, that's a Texas thing. In Texas, everybody thinks if you speak Spanish, you're Mexican and they don't think it's Spanish, they call it Mexican, and it's just weird to me that people are just that
I mean, yeah,
tone
the
deaf.
reason I don't speak Spanish is because my father did not teach it to us, right? He didn't
Right.
teach it to me and my brother. And his Spanish is super rusty.
Yeah.
He's like 78 years old, and he came here from Puerto Rico when he was 5. Right. So I mean, he was a native speaker, but
Yeah.
they taught him in school to never ever speak
Yeah.
Same.
Spanish.
Same
And
here.
they
Yeah.
taught him to be ashamed of it.
Yeah.
So when he was older, I mean, him and his siblings spoke it like when I was younger, but by the time I was old enough, he never spoke it at home with us
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
We were
so
shamed about speaking Spanish by people in our family. So like my kids don't really speak Spanish either for that same reason. It wasn't
Yeah.
until I got older that I quit being ashamed of it. It's
Yeah.
sad. Sad that a
In our
lot of us
family,
have gone through that.
yep, in our family, we were always Spanish first in the household with the kids,
Yeah.
and just because, and it was sort of like they got their English from TV, but we were always, it was just like TV is this thing in English, and we're the ones that speak Spanish. And so and my wife always said that too, because she works with the ALL communities or families, and they'll think because they get this pressure. Probably, I don't know if I guess people are overtly saying it, but they think, yeah, we have to speak English because we're in the United States now. She's like, no, being able to speak these two languages. And I've only just heard of this designation calling yourself like multinational or like I am a part of many nations, that designation for yourself. But I've had this too where my kids in school, like some kid called my daughter Spanish girl, and she's just like, what the fuck, And one of the first articles I wrote back in 2016 was these guys were harassing my kids when they were like 6. This is America. We speak Spanish. And I just always loudly speak Spanish all over the place. Just I'll go to soccer games. And it's like
Yeah.
none of my white guys at these soccer games, and I'm just like screaming in Spanish. And then I'm 6 feet tall and 230 pounds. So guys, nobody comes up and tells me to, and is it size or is it white privilege? It's probably a little bit of both. But I think it's
Probably.
really
Yeah.
important to be out there speaking Spanish loudly at all times. Nobody's gonna say a damn thing to me. And yeah, like those kids that told my kids not to speak. It lived in America. I'm like, what the fuck? Excuse me, what'd you guys say? Oh, sorry, sir. And then they leave.
Yeah.
But you're a big tough guy when it comes to a 7-year-old girl. It's like, come say it to my face, fucker. Oh, that gets me riled up. And the schools don't know how to handle it. My daughter is like forging a path they got her taking college Spanish courses next year. And because, she's fluent in Spanish, so she took all the ones that they could do in the high school. But they didn't have this program already. They had to make this. And I think a lot of it does. It requires like a white Spanish speaker like me to push the school to say, you got to make these programs available. There's no reason we shouldn't have paths to accreditation for all the Spanish speakers in our community so that we have teachers who actually know the language instead of these people that took 2 semesters and did a semester abroad and they think they can speak Spanish, which they really can't. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand that Spanish is different too, basically everywhere you go. Like,
Yeah.
nobody in Latin America speaks Spaniard Spanish, right? And, like,
Oh yeah, definitely.
Caribbean Spanish is like, I call it dirty Spanish, street Spanish, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're just, slang, a lot of and, like, with ours too, because of the history of slavery, a lot of our Spanish in the Caribbean and a lot of Latin America has, like, some, Afro kind of, verbiage in there. So, like, our Spanish is somewhat mixed, and that's why it sounds like street Spanish, basically. But honestly, I think the best Spanish speakers in the world are probably Mexicans. I think they speak better Spanish than Spaniards do. And like,
Ooh,
you
don't
go to
tell a
Latin America,
Spaniard that. Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Oh
well,
boy,
yeah,
they would be
yeah.
monumentally offended.
Yeah, I'm sure. But honestly, I do. Like, I think it's probably the most formal out of everybody else. But everywhere you go in Latin America, the Spanish is different.
Yeah.
And hell, you got Brazil where they speak Portuguese, you got
Yeah.
Guyana where they speak English. So there's a lot of mix. There's French. People don't realize that. I get a lot of racists who are like, "Oh, you guys are Spaniards. You were colonized by Spaniards." I'm like, you don't know shit about Latin America because they speak
Yeah.
French down here. They're speaking it, English in Guyana, like, there's a lot of
Well,
different languages.
so many Americans don't realize too, like in Peru, they have Quechua, which is beautiful language. One little side
Yeah.
story is you go to like walking through Cusco and they'll see something that was made by the Incas. And they're like, oh, that's Inca. And then there'll be something made by the Spanish. They'll say that's incompetente. I think that was always funny. But people don't realize too just the influence. If you look at a map of the United States, you look at just the names. Like every name, Dakota, Mississippi, all these words are Native American words, beautiful languages.
For
And
Spanish, yeah, I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
well, I mean, and there's cities. What was it? Somebody was bitching at me. It was like I was in Eau Claire, and I'm like, that's French for clear water, and they're bitching at me. And I'm like, what do you want me to call the town? It's like there's fucking foreign languages everywhere, you asshole.
Yeah,
No, this is America. We speak American.
yeah,
America's
America.
Italian word. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
like,
like
North
I've had
Dakota, that's America.
I've had people here in Texas to tell me to speak English, but the twang, I'm like, "English or English? Because I don't speak
yeah.
English." "You
Oh
need to
yeah.
speak English." "What?" "What'd you say?"
Yeah,
I
these
don't I
guys
don't
that can't
know.
even speak English telling you to speak English. Oh
Yeah,
fuck.
fucking
Yeah.
hilarious. Fucking hilarious.
Well, we're now 11:30. This has been a great talk. We got a nice crowd here. What other thoughts do we have? I don't know how much time we have, Ogre. I love seeing you. We could just sit here all day, but I'm sure you have stuff to do.
No, I don't know. It's just the racism. The racism just is so fucking annoying because it's gonna get so much fucking worse over the next 3 fucking years. Like
Yeah.
next year, all of the fucking Nazis that ICE has been training for the last couple of months badly are gonna hit the streets. So I mean, we've gotten a much better at chasing them off, but they're gonna get so much more
God.
fucking violent
Yeah.
next year. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's something everyone's got to prepare for.
What are we gonna do? Because I just like these ICE that refuse to identify themselves. They show up in unmarked vehicles and they're just stopping cars. Like, what the fuck, man? I'm supposed to just stop with my car with some guy who's waving a gun in an unmarked vehicle, and I'm just supposed to stop and submit to his authority? That kind of seems like a keep driving situation. Like in Wisconsin, like my wife had this deal. Another story where she was driving along. She was a couple blocks from the house. The cops' lights come on. She's like, "Oh shit." So she's just like, well, I'll just wait a couple blocks and stop here so I could see her outside with the cop talking to her. And the law in the state is you don't have to stop. If somebody's telling you to stop, you don't have to stop until you feel safe. Like
Right.
young women can sit in the car. It's like, oh, I'm just going to take an exit, stop at this gas station so that people can see what happens. But this cop freaked the fuck out. He was pulling her over for a taillight, and he freaked out because she drove another 2 blocks. And I mean, that's just like, that was an actual legitimate cop. So what are we going to do about these guys who, they're cosplaying federal agents? We don't even know because they refuse to show us badges or IDs. They got their faces covered. They're trying to stop traffic and demand stuff from us. I mean, I don't know what to think. That's coming. And I guess this is where we need to put pressure on fucking Democrats again, because nobody's even talking about this, but they are setting up checkpoints all over the country. You're
Well,
hearing about it on social media.
the thing that we need to do, I know they did in Illinois, and I think California has it now too, that these fucking guys have to be like, when they break state laws, they can get
Yeah.
arrested now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they need to do that in more, especially in blue states, right? Because they're not really going, they are doing it in some red states, but they're really going to blue states because the idea is to terrorize blue states, right? More than anything else, they want to terrorize blue states. But they need to pass more laws and make sure, like the governors need to make sure the cops know, if you see these fucking people breaking a law, I don't give a shit if they're fucking feds. You arrest them. You arrest them. That's your fucking job. And if you can't do it, quit.
I
Quit
guess
and
Right.
go fucking join ICE.
you
Yeah,
gotta
and
get people on 911 quick
yeah,
when you're
one
getting
of
pulled.
one of the things that kind of scares me too is, I was talking to Dr. Wiltz a couple days ago because the DOJ lifted a consent decree on the New Orleans Police Department. And if y'all don't know what a consent decree is an
Yeah.
agreement between the Department of Justice and the police department that has a history of unconstitutional, acts, violence, things like that. And I just, while I was talking to Allison about it, I started looking on the DOJ website, and I'm starting to see, because I get these emails from DOJ all the time, and I started to see just how many cities they lifted consent decrees on. And I did a story on it yesterday, and there's quite a few. And they ended investigations into the Minneapolis Police Department, the Memphis Police Department, all around Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, all these things. And then they ended all these consent decrees, which means all these problematic police departments no longer have any oversight. So everything you're seeing ICE doing, and then checkpoints where Customs and Border Patrol can't go beyond that 100-mile mark, now you got cops that are allowed to do that because there's no more oversight. Like all these police departments, the most problematic ones in the biggest cities, all of them blue cities mostly,
Yeah.
and now they have free reign. And to touch on what you said about them not coming in into red states, that's largely true, except for like in Texas and in Louisiana, they're going into blue cities.
Right.
And so, like here in Houston, thousands of people were taken into custody over a 2-week operation. And, of course, ICE claims they're all the worst of the worst. And maybe 200 of those almost 4,000 people were actual criminals. The
And
rest were
usually the
people.
crimes are like bullshit stuff too. It's not even
Right.
like real crimes. It's like,
DUIs, right. Yeah.
right.
And
It's
then
like
the
you
rest of the people,
jaywalked.
right.
Yeah.
The rest of the people are people who were doing everything the right way, who were
Yeah.
getting snatched up in court, who had pending
Yeah.
cases. And that's who they're targeting. They're going after Latinos, and that's
Well, it was the crime of being brown.
Yeah.
In
Right.
America, that's a crime.
And
Because
that
Stephen Miller
judge,
fucking said so.
that judge in Wisconsin too just got found guilty. The one that helped it, she's like, go out the back door. I saw that this morning. She got found. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't think
what
a
the
judge
fuck?
worries about that. What's that?
Yeah, what the fuck?
Well, I think a judge is like, we're just going to endlessly appeal. So I don't think she's sweating it too much. But it's like that's still. And it was a really weird story. I was reading about it because it sounded like they were talking to the jury. It was a split decision, and the quote they had from the juror sounded really nervous. It was like, "What the hell is going on here?" So, and the other thing too is like everybody's got to be aware. You're never white enough for a white supremacist. And the second they decide, it's like there's that whole gatekeeper thing where it's like you have to assimilate by showing you're just an evil asshole. That's what assimilation in the United States is. There was another Republican recently. She's just like, well, these people are coming in, and she's just like, they're lawless. It's like, you're fucking lawless. Your president's a criminal. Half the people, it's like one of our first Friday rants, we were going through all the Republicans that had been arrested and charged with abusing minors and other acts of sexual misconduct, and they're allowed to get away with that kind of language all the time. And it's just like, yeah, the people out there thinking that they're white, and I keep saying this too. I've been telling people, it's like, do you have your proof of citizenship on you? I'm asking white people this. are you carrying proof of citizenship? And it's like, why would I need to? It's like, well, they're checking for illegal immigrants. And they're just like, and it's like, immigrants can be white, asshole. It's like, but it's about getting people that speak Spanish. You know that this fucking government is engaged with, ethnic cleansing, which is a sanitized name for genocide. You fucking know it. And that conversation does get through to people.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. I mean, it's obvious, right? It's obvious. Like, there's something like 800,000 people from Canada and Europe overstay their visas every year in the
Yeah.
US. You never hear about them, right? And there's a reason for that because the media,
Goddamn Canadians.
right?
We have to get rid of all the Canadians.
They're sitting there
Yeah.
down in maple syrup,
Yeah.
getting our kids addicted to maple.
Fucking Canadians and their goddamn poutine. We can't have that in the United
They're so
States.
nice. I gotta check see if Robin's in the. Yeah, she's so wonderful. I'm basically Canadian because I'm up in Wisconsin. Every time I
Yeah.
met Canadians, it would bring out my. I didn't realize I have basically a Canadian accent. So, but when I'll talk to Canadians, it'll start coming out. So
What's that about?
Good fun, Canada.
They don't even speak American. What's that about?
Yeah, what's that
About,
mean?
oh yeah, no, it's a good day here. Yeah, that's you start talking like that when you're talking to Canadians. It's a,
Yeah. I'm that way when
I love Canadians.
I'm that way when I talk to my friends in Jersey because that's where I grew up. And like as soon as I start talking to them, it's Jersey all day, man.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
same thing when I'm up in New York. It's like, hey, what the fuck, man?
Yeah,
Hey,
exactly.
fuck you, hey, fuck, get the fuck out of my way.
Guy, man. Shit.
Canadians bring their bootleg maple syrup across the border. It's
Yeah, but when you talk to Canadians, you get more polite. When you go to New York and New Jersey, you get exceptionally rude and obnoxious.
Yeah.
you get killed with courtesy. Oh man. Oh, I love it. But yeah, no. I guess we're turning it to laughter. So let's start rounding it up. We're finishing on a high note, so that's good. Any final thoughts, guys?
No, I think I'm good for today. I've ranted enough.
Yeah. Just if you guys want to subscribe, I'm running a sale for the holidays, $35 a year forever.
Do it.
That's about it.
Free to subscribe.
Subscribe.
Yeah, I love seeing you, Ogre. I always love seeing you too, Arturo. We'll have to do it again. We got to get you to meet Shane too. Shane brings that young energy where he gets me all riled up. So that's important. I think he likes seeing the old guys get their blood pressure up. So he just sits there and laughs at me.
Well, your crash outs are legendary, Walter. So
I like it better when I have my microphone because it kind of glitches on my mic on my phone. So we'll get that going. But thank you guys. I feel so much better as always. These talks are so important. We covered a lot of good ground.
All right, man. Yeah. Thank you much.
Yep.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks everybody in the comments. We'll see you on the flip side. Bye-bye.
Bye. Enjoy your holidays.
Yeah. Happy holidays.